Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Let's talk about anything and everything that is geek, whether it be TV, comics, movies, or video games. And before I get started, let me just alert you to two things. Sorry about how I sound. Whatever caused me to cough turned it into a sinus infection. So sorry about if I start sounding a little hoarse. My apologies. If I cough, I got a little bit of that cough. And I apologize in advance. But it wasn't as bad as it was. Let me just say that. And another thing, I may look different this week. Well, may look different. I'm absent the beard. I had to shave it all off. It was a requirement for my new job, so I had to shave it off. But you never know. Maybe one of these days it'll make a reappearance. So for now, you had to have fresh face Mr. J. For now, at least. But as y'all know, last Wednesday was the final issue of Convergence. It was issue 8 of Convergence. And it wrapped up this whole long, drawn-out thing that they had going on, in which basically just about every city and DC history, and about every piece of DC history was in play in this, and they were all paired off against each other to figure out who was going to live and who was going to die, type thing. And from what I hear of the series, it was a great big steaming hot mess. From what I heard, I've heard a lot of horrible reviews. Some of the art was terrible, but mostly the writing was just terrible. From what I hear, it was just horrid. I mean, the story. They talk about the story. Just by the time it feels like it was about to pick up, the series is about over with. And also, there was so much confusion and everything in it. And issue 8 sounded like no different. And if you haven't read it yet, and I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to spoil it for you. So if you don't want to hear it, stop right now. Come back to this after you've read it. But if you want to hear it, here goes. Basically, what's led to this, and actually, I'm going to spoil highlights of the series for you. So if you don't want to hear it, stop the video right now until you've read it. If you want to read it, if you don't want to read it and you want to hear it straight from me, here you go. You already pretty much know the premise. Basically, the whole villain of the whole thing was revealed not to be Telos. It was Demos, a villain from the essentially a villain from the old Warlord comics, has gotten all this energy and is trying to remake reality into what he wants it to be, and trying to pick who wins, who dies, all this kind of stuff. But it's led into this whole thing in which the multiverse is about to collapse, in which existence is about to collapse. And Brainiac has been banished and everything. They call on Brainiac's help, and he does something completely out of character. He helps. He actually helps him out, saying that the Crisis on Infinite, saying that all the way this is supposed to be taking place is like the 30th anniversary of Crisis on Infinite Earths, like the biggest DC crossover ever. So basically saying the events of that are bleeding over into this time. And the fact that the Supergirl and the Flash from that story are there, they can't stop the Anti-Monitor from destroying everything. So they basically send them back to their respective timeline to stop it, to basically put everything back to the way it was. But they realize that supposedly all these other characters are from dead timelines. And I'm guessing by that they also mean pre-52, Superman, Lois, and if you read Convergence, Superman, their newborn child, Jonathan Samuel Kent. And basically they're saying that instead of going back to, basically they almost don't even have a place to go back to. Basically it's just going to die, basically. So Superman, Lois, his child, and Parallax, Hal Jordan, the original Parallax, go back in time to the Crisis on Infinite Earths to keep actually almost sound like they stopped the crisis, in which basically makes it basically go back. They go back in time so that the multiverse does not collapse in the first place. And one of the kooky things they did in this book, they went back in time and it supposedly worked. I mean, a major plot point happening off screen. I've heard a lot of railing against that, definitely. And basically what it does supposed to restore the infinite Earths. But by the way they make it look, the classic Earth 2, they claim like that they evolve into these New 52 style, into this New 52 style multiverse that was basically established in Multiversity. And what I mean by they made it like the classic Earth 2 with the home of the Justice Society that we know and love basically evolves into this Earth 2 that we see in the basically have seen in the New 52 the whole time. And the one thing that really irks me and a lot of other folks, a lot of other fans, is the fact that supposedly the pre-52 Earth evolves into the New 52. How does that work exactly? How exactly does that work? I will get into that discussion in a second, but I just want to finish. What happens. Basically, they do that. They claim like their excuse claim like, oh, they still existed, only evolved, which sounds like a crazy excuse for, hey, we're going to stick with this, deal with it. And basically, the Earth 2 survivors, after I just said that they made it look like the original Earth 2 evolved into new Earth 2, supposedly the Earth 2 survivors now no longer have a world. So, through a bunch of things like Brainiac and Telos severing their connection to the planet Telos, gets all of a sudden everything starts growing and everything, and they turn that into their new Earth 2, which all of this is supposed to lead into this new DCU that's spelled YOU, and all that craziness that's about to start happening. And I'll get to that in a second too. But back to my previous thought about these evolved Earths and the new pre-52 evolving in the new 52. How exactly does that work exactly? I mean, all of these, think about this for just a second. All of these events basically started spinning out of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, you've got you've basically got Crisis on Infinite Earths. Then you've got zero hour Crisis in Time, they call it. The next crisis that happened was 0 hour, in which was caused by Parallax, which, by the way, I'll get to another thought in just a second. It's connected to this. 0 hour. Then the next crisis was Infinite Crisis. Then you had Final Crisis. Then you had Flashpoint, which then went into the New 52, and then this. If I'm not mistaken, the way, if science fiction has served me correctly, and theories of time and space, the way I've heard it, by changing the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, should that not have changed everything else too? I mean, that's the way I've always looked at the time theory, is that you go back and change one event, it's going to change everything in the future. Point being, by changing Crisis on Infinite Earths, basically 0 hour shouldn't have happened. Infinite Crisis shouldn't have happened. Final Crisis shouldn't have happened. Maybe Flashpoint should not have happened either. Flashpoint basically probably wouldn't have happened either. Hence, the New 52 would have been negated. Think about that for a second. Basically, by changing Crisis on Infinite Earths, it would have reset everything back to the way it originally was in pre-Crisis DC Universe. And basically, everything was like the classic iterations of the characters, and yet somehow they managed to rewrite the rules of time and space-time continuum and everything. And basically, they changed one event in time, and yet what does it change? Nothing. How does that work exactly? You basically negated, basically what you've done is that by stopping Crisis on Infinite Earths, it basically just destroyed everything. Instead of fixing everything and putting everything back to classic Superman, it doesn't change diddly squat, except maybe negate the crises, the different crisis events that happen. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. And basically, almost by doing this crap, they have basically put a death nail in the pre-52. They have basically written the epitaph of the New 52. It's like somebody saying, if the New 52, if Flashpoint was to completely destroy the pre-52 history, this basically, Convergence basically just chopped up its remains, threw it in a vat of acid, and launched the vat into space. Is one reviewer's initial thoughts of that, of this whole event. And basically that's what they did. But here's another little iota that doesn't make sense. Though these events were negated, somehow, the world of 0 Hour, which was the second Crisis event, almost supposed to be a sequel to that. Basically, the 0 Hour world, which had 90s Superboy, Parallax, a bunch of characters, all the different characters from 0 Hour, basically, they have now got their own Earth in the multiverse. How does that even make sense? How does it make sense? You basically negate, you go back and completely change and completely obliterate the biggest DC crossover event in the history of comics, and negate every Crisis event that comes after it, except for maybe Blackest Night and, well, probably with the exception of Blackest Night and maybe Identity Crisis. That may have gotten changed too. But basically, maybe with the exception of Blackest Night, every event should have been negated at that point. And yet somehow, by changing one event, it made everything else stay exactly the same, and then put one Crisis event on its own Earth, on its own evolved Earth. That makes absolutely no sense. And it's as I said here on this show a few months ago, I had a horrible feeling that Convergence was going to be an excuse to destroy the pre-52, and it's come true. They have destroyed it. By doing it and by bending the rules, and basically, if this is, and to get to this in a minute, if this is what's going to be the new DCU, it's going to be a train wreck. If they're doing that kind of crap in this. But to basically, everybody knows how time and space works in comics and science fiction. It should have changed everything. It wouldn't have stayed like this. It would have at least gone back into some version of what it originally was. This is not, the New 52 is not a version of what it originally was. It should have gone back into some kind of different version of the pre-52 DCU multiverse. And yet, nothing changed. How do you change something 30 years in the past and it not change anything except just destroying 30 years of history and throwing it out the door. Now there's the same reviewer actually said there is the possibility that on some, now that it looks as if they've reintroduced Infinite Earths back into the multiversal situation. On some vibrational plane somewhere, the pre-52 could still exist, and it could. But for the foreseeable future, the way that ending splash panel look of the pre-52 big three, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the classic version of those characters fading away, and the new 52 being so bright, vibrant, and front stage of that Earth, that don't look like the case right now. It looks like they have just officially put a death nail, as I knew they were going to, into the pre-52. And the way they try to make it look, they're not bringing it back. And it just infuriates me. I knew they were going to do this. I knew it. And I'm gonna just ask this: if there's anybody out there that had that same feeling as me, drop your comment in the comment box below. I want to hear who else had this same horrible feeling about this going into Convergence. But that's basically, to me, I want to make my admission right here. I think that's what the purpose of Convergence was in the first place. To completely destroy any classic version of the DC characters. Because if you look in this book, it is nothing but a slaughter fest. It's nothing but a massacre. I mean, they start off the book in issue 1 by killing the regime version of Superman from Injustice and completely obliterating that world because they would not fight. And then in the next issue, you have the mechanized version of what I've now that New 52 is no longer the New 52, supposedly. I call it the Didio-verse because he's the one spearheading all this. The mechanized version of the Didio-verse characters destroying Stan Lee's version of just brutally slaughtering Stan Lee's Just Imagine DC characters. And then also in the same book, you have Superman Red, Superman Blue engaged in in-depth battle with another Lex Luthor and another Supergirl. Then in the next issue, I know a lot of y'all remember the old Silver Age comics where Superman and Jimmy Olsen teamed up in the City of Kandor as Nightbird, as Nightwing, and Flamebird. Well, in issue 3, Superman shows up again as Flamebird, as Nightwing, where he refuses to fight pointlessly, this fight of cities and timelines. So what does Telos do? He brutally kills him. He impales him. And then destroys Kandor. And as it went on throughout the book, it was nothing but merciless slaughter between universes. And as I said this, and I said this in a conversation with my wife, I said, just you watch, they're going to have every Earth basically destroying everything from the classic continuity, destroy itself, while the New 52 just sits in the background, or the Didio-verse, as I call it now, sits in the background and just watches on as everybody massacres each other. And that's exactly what happened in this book. They did nothing to stop this. They sat back and looked at their big TV on Earth Zero as this world where all this was going on at invaded their universe. And what did they do? Most of the heroes, except for Superman and Supergirl, went back to their families to be with them in the event this world ended. And meanwhile, everything that is and was DC is destroying itself on another world, while the New 52 Didioverse versions are just sitting there doing nothing. They're letting them wipe each other out just to come in and rake and sweep away the remnants and be the single DCU. I called it, and that's what happened. And it still makes me sick. They brutally slaughtered not only my childhood, but the childhood of a lot of generations of comic book fans by doing this. They destroyed everything. While Dan Didio's champions sat on their butts and watched it all happen and did nothing. What kind of heroes is that supposed to represent for a new generation of readers? Nothing. And to me, it represents nothing. It's almost like, that ain't my problem. And it just makes me sick. And basically, it just infuriates me more. They finally asked the question after all these years, can Superman and Lois have a kid? And they do. In Convergence Superman issues 1 and 2. They finally have a kid. But what happens? I mean, I know I'm going to say, it was Pre-52 Superman's decision to go back and alter everything. Which shows the mark of a true hero to basically say, well, we're going up dead anyway. Let's go back and actually make a difference. That's the sign of a true hero, that even when all looks lost, there is a ray of hope. And it changed everything, but at the same time, it changed everything back into Infinite Earths. But as for the continuity's sake, nothing changed. So to me, he went back in time for nothing and negated the birth of it, negated everything he went through and what everybody else went through, negated everything just so everything could stay the same. And it makes me sick. It's disgusting what they're doing over there. They're just making up the rules just so their crap can stay in print. Which leads me into part 2 of my subject, the whole mini relaunch of the DCU. And again, this is DCU spelled Y-O-U. And that their whole slogan is, we got something for everybody, every reader, from new fans to lifelong fans. I've heard what they're going to be about this mini relaunch they're doing. And I'm going to just say it right now, for traditional fans like me, there's nothing in there for us. I mean, you've got Superman now. His identity, he's had his little night of getting drunk off of, and maybe like half a beer. He did his little solar flare trick, mortal for a half hour, mortal for a 24 hour, goes out and gets drunk. And then wakes up and suddenly his powers ain't coming back properly. He goes out there and fights hungover. Again, spoiler alert. I'm basically spoiling issue 40 and about to go in a little bit deeper. He gets hungover, goes suits up and goes fight hungover and half powered. Basically, his powers are fading the whole time. Gets hurt. He comes into the office as Clark Kent. Lois notices he has the exact same injuries as Superman, and from that fight, she puts 2 and 2 together, and what's the first thing she does? Blabs it to the entire world. That's right. The entire world now knows that Clark Kent and Superman are the same person. So basically now, he has no life. He essentially has no life as Clark Kent. And to cap this all off, they showed a preview. I saw a preview of issue 41. He fights his way to the fortress. The whole time his powers are leaving him. He gets to the fortress, tries to get in the fortress, and the fortress strips him of his costume. And also the cape that he has, in his continuity, he was wrapped in, he was essentially the wrappings that he had, the swaddling well, he was the cloth he was swallowing as a child, he now wears as his cape. Well, essentially, the Fortress strips him of his costume, grabs the cape, and tears it up. And in the midst of trying to pull the cape out, the cape tears in two. Supposed to be indestructible cloth, and yet now it's destroyed. And now this leads to the whole motorcycle riding, jeans and t-shirt, buzz cut sporting Superman with what remains of the cape wrapped around his knuckles. And from the way it looks, he's not too happy. He's not the smiling, friends with everybody Superman that he was in the pre-52. Or it didn't look like that anyway from the start of the New 52. He was kind of was not the same guy. Now he definitely ain't, because I've seen images of him punching out the Flash, getting so desperate to get his powers back, he tries to launch himself into the sun, which Wonder Woman and her new look stops him and basically makes it where he can't go into the sun. And what does he say to her? And he's so mad at her for not helping him, he turns around to her and says, "I don't love you anymore." Isn't that selfish? How selfish is that? All he could think about is getting his powers back, and not even think about it. Not even think about that. She doesn't want him to get hurt, but he don't care. So basically, he breaks up. It sounds like he breaks up with Wonder Woman because she won't help him, and that's selfish, very selfish. And to lead into other things, y'all have heard me rail against this on the program too. The new Batman is going to be Jim Gordon, because nobody knows what happened to Bruce Wayne and all that. And of course, anybody read Endgame knows Batman. It looks like the Batman and Joker died together under Gotham in a cave-in. And now Jim Gordon's running around in this mechanized, police-sponsored bat mech suit that a lot of folks say look like either the Tick or Pikachu or a rabbit. A lot of folks call him Bunny Batman, and who can blame them? Basically, they're supposed to, him and Superman are supposed to have a run-in in the Batman versus Batman Superman. I think is issue 41. Also, I may be mistaken. Might be issue 26. I can't remember what it said it is. Basically, they're supposed to get into a fight. And on top of that, you got, and other than changing them, Hal Jordan's now a fugitive, intergalactic fugitive of the law. Wonder Woman, I don't know what they're doing with her. They're supposed to be giving her her own doppelganger in Darkseid's daughter. And Flash is supposed to look more like TV show. Green Arrow's supposed to change. Aquaman's going to change into something almost, they're trying to make him look like Aqualad from the pre-52. And one thing that really doesn't make sense, all these other books, and you got like this whole We Are Robin crap and all this, and basically, and Bizarro getting his own book, villains getting their own books, even more villains, I should say. I know villains have already had their books before, but I said they're making them forefront like they're the heroes or something. And one thing that really doesn't make sense, you've got all these other books that basically different events are going on. They all look different, but you look over there at Justice League and Justice League of America, it looks like nothing ever happened. Nothing. They all look exactly the same. All the Justice League looks exactly like the same. Exactly the same as before Convergence happened. And one thing that really and another thing about this new thing that irks me, other than the changes they've made, is that they're launching this new Justice League United book, #1, claiming that they're going to assemble a group of young heroes to basically hunt down, almost like sound like they're going to hunt down and eliminate any remnants of the cosmic convergence that happened. and they're talking about stuff appearing in there like Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, and classic Wonder Woman. I'm guessing in a leotard and the gold on her outfit and everything. Basically, what I get from it, this is just my interpretation. Basically, they're going to hunt down and destroy any remnants of the classic universe that survived Convergence. I have never in my life seen such character assassination. I've never in my life seen such a company reject their roots like this. I've never in my life seen this. You basically kill and bury almost once and for all the pre-52 and keep everything and don't even change nothing. Just just sweep away the past, and then you bring in something in which continuity takes backseat to great storytelling, which, as I've said before on this show, to me sounds like glorified fan fiction. And basically they're going to take the rules and stretch them and bend them and make it up and do whatever they want to. And it doesn't have to make sense as long as it's a great story. What? When did that ever start being? When did that ever start making sense? I'm sorry, but I'd rather read a story with tons of continuity and where everything flows and makes sense. Not something where they're going to basically throw continuity to the wayside and just make up junk. You know, like Convergence, in which they basically swept aside continuity, kept what they wanted, got rid of what they didn't want, and bent the rules to try to justify it. To me, that's crap. And I'm sorry, but that kind of noodle scratching, anger inducing, poppycock is about the only word I could come in my mind. That kind of crap sinks a company. And I've said, and as y'all seen in my petition, I believe that this, in the end, is going to be very detrimental to the company. What the bosses are doing, what all this mess that they're doing and have done, is ultimately detrimental to the company. And personally, I don't want to see this kind of fate befall the comics that I grew up on. I mean, I'll just say this real quick. Marvel has just recently destroyed their universe and basically taken the best qualities of it and are going to make it into a new universe. They've destroyed the regular universe and they destroyed the Ultimate Universe. But the best of all of those are all going to come together on one Earth and make on one world and basically create the new Marvel Universe. And for what I've seen of it, it's going to be more, I'm going to say, it's going to be a more recognizable universe than what DC's doing right now. Why? Because Marvel doesn't completely take all of its continuity and destroy it. They take it, they celebrate it, and they make it they take pieces of it that they like and make something new out of it. But it's still the characters that we've recognized and loved all these years. There may be a few differences here and there, but it ain't like they're going to completely throw everything out the door and keep a bad product, you know. But that's what DC's essentially done. They throw away what everybody's loved, give it back to you just long enough to take it away from you, throw it out, smash it into pieces, sweep it up in a dustpan, throw it in a garbage disposal, and grind the rest of those pieces up and force you into this. Into liking the bad product. I'm sorry, but that's not a way to run a company. And I'm saying that shows you how out of touch they are with fans like me and fans like those who supported my petition and everything. Those who like the real classic, whether it be pre-crisis, post-crisis, pre-infinite crisis, post-infinite crisis, pre-Flashpoint DC. Anybody that's a fan of that, like I am, they know this is crap. And I'm gonna say, if you like the classic and you ended up liking this tripe, that's your business. I'm not going to deprive you of that. I'm just doing. The reason I started this petition is because I'm ultimately a concerned comic book fan, and I don't like to see where this is going. If you like it, I don't hold that against you. That's basically that's your choice. I'm making mine. Is all I'm saying. But in the end, Convergence is a steaming pile followed by another steaming pile. And to be cliche, it stinks. It just stinks. And I'm gonna just say, I really want the old universe back permanently. I love seeing the old universe back, but to go out like this, I mean, the last time you see Superman, he's going off to save the universe, and that's typical Superman. I like that, but I don't like the fact that they twist it in that it didn't do anything really. It just made the multiverse a more multiverse, but nothing else really changed. And to me, that's just sad. It kept everything as it was with a slight tweak, just so everything can remain the same. And I'm gonna say that's not how you run a company. That's not how you run a company. And as that reviewer said, they had to talk Jeff King into doing that story, not the other way around. And I can guarantee you, I know who was really writing that story, and it wasn't Jeff King. It was Dan Didio. And I'm going to say it, just like everything else he's had his hands in, it's crap. It's crap, and it's got to stop. It's just, in the end, it's just going to destroy the company. You've basically alienated the readers even further. And in the end, that's going to hurt you really bad. It's going to hurt really bad. And it's got to stop. As I've said plenty of times in the program, go tell DC how you feel. If this angers you like it does me, go tell DC how it feels. Go tell how you feel about this, and that you think this is crap, and you want the old universe back. Go tell them. And again, as I've said plenty of times before about my petition, those of you who signed, thank you. I really appreciate it. Letting your voices be heard. If you haven't yet, please go. I'm leaving a link to it in the description below. So please go sign. Let your voice be heard on this if you haven't yet, and share it with whoever will take the time to listen to this. Please. Because if they don't reverse course and they keep on with this crap that they're doing, this DCU thing, it's going to belly up the company, I think. It's going to belly up the company, or worse. And what I mean by worse, I think y'all know what I mean when I mean saying it. So definitely go sign my petition and let your voice be heard on the subject. And again, go tell DC how you feel about this, whether it be via their Twitter page, Google Plus page, whatever page they have. Go express your disgust in this, because it's got to change. It really has. But as I said before, bottom line, it's crap what they did in Convergence. It's what I knew was going to happen, and it's crap has begat crap, and I won't have anything to do with it. Not a thing. I will say I have finally got Convergence Superman, which I actually deemed the last best Superman story ever written, at least for now. So I definitely, and I'm gonna say I've thumbed through at least the first issue last night. It's great. It looks great. The art's great. The story looks great. I can't wait to read both issues together. So you never know, there may be a Convergence Superman review in the future for me. So stay tuned as always. But what do y'all think on this subject? Am I out of line? Do y'all agree with me? Y'all disagree with me? You have a different opinion on the subject? Let me know. As always, drop your comment in the comment box. I would love to hear what y'all have to say on this subject, whether you agree or disagree. And I guess that's all for this week's edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Again, the petition, if you haven't signed it yet, is there's a link down in the description below. Please go sign it. Let your voice be heard. Let DC know you ain't going to take this crap anymore. So, and that you want the old universe back forever, not just for an 8-issue series just to have it snatched out under you again. Now you want it back permanently. And I guess, and again, you have any comments about the show whatsoever, drop me a comment box. I would love to hear what y'all have to say. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, tell all your friends, and you have any ideas about any topic you want to hear me talk about on the show, drop me a comment box. I'm always looking for fresh new topics to discuss and analyze on this show. I'm always looking for fresh new things, so definitely drop it in the comment box. I'd love to hear your ideas, and you never know, we may be made it to an episode of Mr. J's Geek Corner. So definitely drop your ideas in the comment box. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your ideas, and hashtag long live the Pre-52, and I'll see y'all next time.